How do you feel about euthanasia and late-term abortion as conducted by Planned Parenthood, which to me is just a killing machine that you would have seen in a fascistic country where they sell baby body parts for profit? Does that offend you at all?
It does, absolutely. I am against late birth abortion. Okay, I don't believe in it.
Well, then why don't we talk about closing down Planned Parenthood and arresting the leadership?
I think it's not about arresting Planned Parenthood, but modifying what is Planned Parenthood. So you know what? Instead of going to backroom abortions they had way back when before.
You make a very important point. People should understand that there are consequences to banning abortion that could have very unintended, disastrous consequences for women in this country. And I've been around long enough to know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about illicit abortion mills. I'm talking about women almost killing themselves using coat hangers to terminate an abortion. But you should understand that abortifacients have been used since ancient times in almost every society. Do you know that?
Yeah, I'm somewhat familiar, yes. So,
in other words, years ago I wrote a book called Earth Medicine, Earth Food about Native American healing. And in my research, I found that many tribes had used plants to end pregnancies that were unwanted long before we could ever imagine this would become an industrial level act here in the United States of America. So even way back when they were using plants to end pregnancies in primitive or traditional societies. So there may be an argument along the lines of what you are saying, and there is a danger in turning the clock so far back that women wind up killing themselves, having to fly to third world countries for abortions, going to shady operators in bad neighborhoods to have abortions. There has to be some balance in this picture. I agree with you.
The purpose of my call.
And would you ever have expected me to say that?
Honest answer, Mike, no. You know, I am one of those.
Well, I think this is maybe what makes the show a little more unpredictable, is that you have to ask me about the issue to get the actual opinion that I may have, and I appreciate your asking me on that. The easy answer for anyone in talk radio would be to say they 100% oppose abortion. That would be the phony answer. That's the knee-jerk answer. That's because they know that the audience wants to hear that. And that's okay. I mean, you have to do what you have to do to survive in any walk of life. And I hope I have not offended the devout Christians amongst my listenership, which is a significant part of my audience, in expressing to you the overall picture of this very complex story of abortion. I'll be right back on the Savage Nation.
Savage.
I think this July 4th we ought to salute not only our soldiers, our military, we should salute our ICE officers. If you see an off-duty ICE officer, buy them an ice cream cone or a hot dog. Tell them that you appreciate them, that you're part of the 98%, not the 2% of hysterical summer vacation college girls. Protests are turning violent. They're getting violent because they've always been violent. The subtext of the, quote, tolerant people has always been intolerance. The subtext of we don't hit are people who use others to hit. And so I wasn't joking earlier when I said I think Republicans, who are generally quiet, nice, polite, middle-class, suburban people, need to learn self-defense. And I think that the Republicans are very much today like the Israelis facing the PLO and their increasing violence. And I think it's going to get a lot worse before the election, before it gets better. I'm pretty sure that George Soros and the others want it to get worse. I'm pretty sure that hundreds of millions of dollars are being pumped into this country by evil, purely evil people who want to destroy this nation. And make no mistake about it, this nation will not be destroyed. It's not going down. The violence will increase. The level of rhetoric will get uglier. But the country is not going to go down. I've just finished a voluminous research project that I've been working on for a very long time on hysterical movements in America going back to the beginning. And whether it was the burning of the witches at the Salem witch trials, or if you want to call it the Red Scare of the 50s, we're right now living through yet another hysteria of the left with a completely fabricated narrative. And it, too, will burn itself out like the epidemic it is. As a trained epidemiologist, I've got to tell you, if you study epidemics, diseases, every epidemic that has ever arisen usually burns itself out. It runs its course and it burns itself out. And I believe that's going to happen with the hysterical college kids who are now posing as wild, crazy radicals with their masks and their pipes. Very soon this will come to an end. And I hope it comes to an end sooner rather than later. I hope it comes to an end before we see another killing at Kent State occur. I lived through the 60s. I saw the whole thing. And I know when the rioting ended. It ended when the National Guard fired upon those masked protesters who were hurling things at them at Kent State University. And when they opened fire and killed a couple of kids, which was a horrible tragedy in American history, that was the end of the protest movement. The kids suddenly learned that there may be consequences that are unintended when you start invoking violence. So you got these goons now putting on masks and picking up pipes and attacking people who are carrying American flags. They don't understand the unintended consequences of such actions. Yesterday in Portland, they picked on the wrong guy, a very muscular white guy. One of them hit this guy with a pipe. He threw one punch and knocked the punk out. Punk almost died. You'd think the cops would have arrested the guy who defended himself? You're wrong. Even in liberal Portland, it was found to be self-defense. So we've got to understand that we've got to, as they used to say in the 60s, cool it. Because violence does the nation no good. Violence only begets violence. And, it's easy to stand there and say, go get him, and you'll see what's coming, and act like a tough guy with your arms crossed, standing with a leather jacket in front of a microphone, which so many people do in this business. But frankly, that act is old. It's tiresome. It doesn't really work. What works is peace. We need peace in this country. We need dialogue in this country. And the only hope for this nation is dialogue and is peace. Because violence has never worked, and it never will work. And if it escalates, what do you really want to come of it? Do you want another civil war? Do you want to see hundreds of thousands of dead people? Well, count me out, because hell no, I don't want to go. And I'm not going to go there. And I'm not going to egg you on to go out into these crowds and attack them. But I will tell you this, the Republicans need self-defense lessons, and they need them fast. It is the savage nation, and we're looking at violent mass hysteria of the left wing in the United States of America and how it's actually pushing Trump's ratings up and pushing people away from the violent Democrat Party of today, as exemplified by eliminate ICE. There are consequences to such statements. What do you mean by eliminate ICE? Can anyone listening to this show, a so-called progressive who has a rational mind and brain, who can talk, tell me what would happen if you eliminated ICE. Tell me how the country would, tell me what the country would become without the immigration services that ICE performs. And have you thought about who is behind the anti-ICE rioting? Who is it who brings heroin and cocaine into America? Who is it who uses children as human shields for smuggling? You have to understand that you may be the useful idiots that Karl Marx wrote about. Many of you don't even understand that you're just pawns in a bigger game. Useful idiots and pawns in a much bigger game. But I think the government knows who is behind this anti-ICE hysteria that we are living through. And I believe that soon the nation will come to its senses. At least I hope so. Well, anyway, we can talk about many, many things on the program, not get trapped only in that. Oil's at $75 a barrel. Gas prices are starting to be felt. 2 years ago, I told a friend in the media that Trump will be able to withstand anything except high gas prices. I said that to him, when gas was pretty cheap. And now he's being squeezed by his good friends in the Middle East. Watch what I'm saying to you. The average person could care less about the lunatics with the black masks. It doesn't affect them. But as was written thousands of years ago in Roman times by the historian, I think, Cato the Elder, the average Roman does not care about where the legions may be, whether they're in Germania, doesn't matter to them, nor their victories, nor their losses. What the average Roman cares about, he wrote, is the pebble in the shoe, meaning the cost of leather, the cost of food, the cost of livestock. That's all the average Roman ever cared about. It's all the average American cares about today. Did you know that? And that's why you have saran wrap people running Hollywood. You don't really care about them. You know they're all sick in the head. That's why you don't go to their movies. I mean, the saran wrap people are running. The people in the saran wrap community are producing the images for the world. So, your choices, you just don't go to the movies. That's all. You don't watch the garbage. But what's going to happen? I mean, you got $5 a gallon gas out here on the West Coast. What are you going to do with that? That's expensive, It starts to add up. And that's the one that could hurt. Nothing else. So all of the rioting and all the screaming and all the hue and cry, all the sound and fury means nothing in terms of politics. What really matters is the cost of living. That's all that matters. Terry on WABC Line 5. Go ahead, please.
Hi. I've been walking around with a cane for the last 4 years. Not that I need it, but I really do feel I need the protection. I don't want anyone coming near me without at least putting up a fight. Today,
wait. Hold on. I don't know. Where are you calling from? What neighborhood?
the East Village. I mean, I've been keeping up with this.
Well, you got to understand, it's a national show. I know you think I know. They don't know what the East Village is. Explain what the East Village is to the listener.
It's Avenue A through C through D. It's a confluence of the very wealthy who have moved into co-op buildings. It used to be for the poor, the immigrants, and now it's only for the children of the wealthy and for illegal aliens who I see with backpacks, the newly arrived. They come in every day, these young men, strong as oxes, and I don't believe they're 15 years old. They're at least 25 years old.
Oh, you mean the children coming from south of the border, the poor children who are 25?
Yeah.
I guess they weren't carried over in their mother's backpack. So let me ask you something, darling. You're listening to me on WABC. Terry, are you a lifetime villager?
I moved in as, I'm a Brooklynite, which means I grew up in a very conservative, Germanic, Italian, Irish, old Scottish neighborhood, old farmland. The old farm tools were in the basement of our house. I mean, a real love of the land. And I'm third, fourth generation Jewish. I'm really an American.
But wait, how did you get from Brooklyn to the East Village? What brought you down to that part of the woods?
Fell in love with a black man, and we've been together 42 years. We're going to be married in August, finally.
Wait a minute, and you're allowed to listen to this show?
My dear, I am so conservative, and he too. We light the candles. We keep kosher.
Well, don't tell that to any of the rich progressives around you. They're liable to burn your house down.
Oh, please. But you know what's happened? I'm happy you brought them up. They don't look askance at me any longer because they see what's going on. All of a sudden, they're patting me on the shoulder. They're asking me how I am.
Well, how did they know How did they know what your politics are?
Because I'm not afraid.
So you're known as the right-wing nut in the neighborhood? Is that it?
The right-wingers keep their mouths shut. Shut.
No, I'm saying, how did they come to know your politics are conservative in a very liberal neighborhood? You must have done some things over the time that they came to know you.
I confront. When Mr. Trump was running, I explained that I grew up in his neighborhood. I remember seeing him around and his father. And when he spoke about painting the garage doors on his father's beautiful townhouses, those townhouses were down the block from me. I thought the T on the balustrade on the upper balcony was for my name. Did I know it was for Trump?
All right, so you're a conservative in a very left-wing, so-called progressive neighborhood of New York City. Are you telling me that the young people were threatening you before you started marching around with your cane?
No, but I felt I didn't trust. I don't trust people